apprentice learning to write with Mick. And I'm very proud of some of the songs I wrote with him. Really proud of them.
Okay. Talking about Joe Sturmer, are you still following Joe Sturmer Foundation? Do you know how are their activities currently?
They're still up and running. They have Strummerville every year at Glastonbury, and they're still funding a lot of different operations around the world. And young bands here. It's not just about helping people here as well. Like I say, they've helped set up studios in Africa, for instance, I believe. I think they've set up something in South America. I'm not sure. But if they haven't, they probably soon will. But it's very much in the spirit of, again, that thing of Joe wanting to kind of pass on that creative energy and help people out,
Do you think that if the Clash is still working today, if Mick Jones and Joe Strummer were together and everything, do you think how big the band will be nowadays?
It's not about size, man. It's about the quality. They were never as big as U2, but does that matter? I don't think they wanted to be. It was never about numbers. It was about the quality of the people that you were communicating with and the possibilities that came out of that creative exchange. That was much more important. I mean, that's why the Clash kind of imploded, because Joe was very, he loved people and he loved the planet, and he was a very, organic person. He believed in the spirit of people, and I think one of his greatest talents was to make everybody feel like they had a part to play, even though sometimes they fucking didn't. But he made people believe in themselves, and it was a really beautiful quality that he had. So I don't know about numbers. All I know is that, these people come along every few generations, and when they come along, they're to be treasured. Because in the 21st century, I don't see any Joe Strummers. I don't see any new Johnny Rottens. I don't see any of these kind of people. I don't even see any Chuck Dick. Well, Chuck's still alive, so respect Chuck. But I don't see any new equivalent of these people. The kind of the warriors, man. I don't see that. The baddest guy in the 21st century is fucking Justin Bieber. I mean, what the hell? What the hell? I mean, that's what they call a rebel in the 21st century. Give me a break.
I'm going to ask you just that if you do believe that some new musical scene or artistic movement can currently have the same impact that punk had at the time. Are we not in a perfect time for something new to appear?
Absolutely, it can have the same impact, but not necessarily. I think in the West, it's had its time. Do you know what I mean? But the world is a big place, man. It ain't all about England and America anymore. And that's one of the good sides of technology. It's democratized the possibilities of creativity. It's not, like I say, it's not machines' fault that people are actually putting up pictures of their ugly kids and what they're eating. That's not technology's fault. I've forgotten my point. No, but I get to travel the world, and you see that people still believe in the power of music to kind of rally people, exchange ideas, pass on information, and have a kind of political debate. It still has that possibility. It's not just about selling shit, and it ain't all about, thank God, England and America. And I know in Brazil, for instance, people are really passionate about music and the power it has and the possibility it has to change people's lives. Your country's a perfect example of that. And certainly in Africa and India and places that I've been, yeah.
So maybe the new stuff, a new movement, maybe came from another country.
Absolutely. Oh no, England and America, it's done now. England and America, everybody wants to be a celebrity. When I got into music, when I was young, when you got into music, it was an anti-establishment thing. Now, in the 21st century, many young people, not all, but many young people in the West, they get into music to be part of the establishment. You understand?
Yeah.
They want to be on MTV Awards. They want to walk on a red carpet.
Want to have a YouTube channel with thousands and thousands of subscribers.
And if that's your dream, I don't know how creative or rebellious you can be. I think you have to say, fuck all that. I think in the 21st century, the secret is to have new values. If you don't want that stuff, then all of a sudden, the world's a really exciting place, man. Trust me. You know what I mean? So, fuck MTV, fuck this, fuck the charts. And maybe I don't need to sell to 10 million people. Maybe I can send to 1,000 people. But that quality of that exchange is much more valuable than the financial financial reward. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with getting paid for a good idea. And ideally, you can do something and make a living off of it. But it ain't just about getting rich. There's different kinds of wealth. I'm rich, not in money, but in here somewhere, I feel rich. I'm like, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yesterday at the concert, I was very surprised that there are a lot of youngsters in the crowd, and during the concert, sometimes people start to sing, Jeremy Corbyn, and people at the bar are talking about socialism. I thought it was really strange. I didn't expect that. Maybe there's a germ in this generation, maybe in the next generation, not in this one,
No,
that will not, that don't want the same thing.
no, listen.
Don't want to be famous. Don't want money for money.
It's good. It's a good that you raise that point because that's why I always say not everybody. It's not all of them. But this election proved that a lot of young people are beginning to get more politically engaged, and the reason that is happening is because they're getting fucked. I don't know how. I'm trying to think of a diplomatic way to say it. Through education, you know, they go to university, they end up with a 50 grand, £50,000 debt. Rent, to rent a room in central London, a tiny room is like £400 a week. How are these people going to have a life and be creative if all their energy goes into just surviving? So they've been forced to become politicized. But it's unfortunate that they've had to be pushed against the wall before they become engaged, because a lot of liberties have been taken with people for a long time, but they've only got involved when it's affected them directly. But I guess that's human beings. It's hard for them to empathize with somebody else. But when it hits you directly, then you get on the streets. Then you start voting, and that's what changed things now. So there's hope. I am an optimist, I have to say. I think for 17 years, a lot of young people have been fucking asleep. I have to say that. The 21st century, it doesn't seem very creative to me. There's a lot of this thing of nostalgia and looking back, because if you look back, it's much safer and easier than trying to go forward. That takes a bit of spirit. But like I say, I get to travel when I'm optimistic. I just come back from Brazil and people there loving music. And, yeah.
Don, I was surprised by the story of the skinhead documentary. Seen at the first, the movement for me always maybe was violent and racist, and so how do you think that became so radicalizing and violent after all?
Media, easy. It's just the media. Simply this: when a movement is happening, the media don't get involved unless they can demonize it. There's an expression, folk devils. They create these folk devils, and they always publicize the negative sides. So skinheads, young boys, yes, they like to fight, and some of them did start fighting black people because they were being
competing with jobs and.
Well, what happened is the right-wing politicians started to kind of,
Try to make their mind.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what the media starts to focus on. All of a sudden, it's all about, these two kids are beating up one black man, and all of a sudden that idea of what skinhead is about gets spread across the whole of the country.
And the whole world.
And then the whole world. And then the thing gets amplified over and over. And that's what happened to skinhead. It happened to punk rock. When Johnny Rotten, that thing, they did this thing on TV, the Bill Grundy show. And basically, everybody, they focused on all the kind of the mohawks and the safety pins, and the minute that program was televised, the next day, everybody thought, so that's what punk's about. It's about all these superficial things that the media focused on. And that day, that aspect of punk all kind of died. And smart people said, okay, we don't want anything to do with this. But it's interesting that the media's part in making these subcultures happen has been constant in England. Because every time they start to focus on it, the young people say, okay, we don't want anything to do with that. We want to reclaim this and make it ours again. And that's why in England you had teddy boys, you had skinheads, you had mods, you had punk, you had shown you, it's this. It was this thing of the young constantly trying to reclaim what they thought was theirs. In the 21st century, it's all disappeared. You know, it's funny. But these things are really important in the last half of the 20th century. I mean, I'm that old. I was part of all of these things. I wasn't actively part. I witnessed them. I was affected by them.
Tell us about your new projects, what you're planning to do in this year and the next year.
Me, like everybody else, I'm hustling, my friend. It's a glamorous hustle, but it's not easy. I'm trying to raise money for a documentary on something called Afrofuturism. Other than that, I've still got my radio show on BBC Six Music, which I love very much. And in the summer months, I do a lot of DJ work. I just played in Glastonbury. I'm actually recovering from Glastonbury. That's why I'm a bit untogether. I went to Sao Paulo, came home for one day, then the next day, 4 days in Glastonbury. And Glastonbury's hardcore, believe me. It takes like a week to get over it. It's like jet lag, the Glastonbury lag. So yeah, juggling DJing, radio show, and trying to raise money for film projects.
I would love to invite you to DJ in Brazil in maybe next year. But in this year, on next month, on 29th of July, our blog will organize a gathering, a concert in a square in São Paulo to celebrate 40 years of 1977 punk rock. But we try to get bands to play those same songs, those Clash songs, Pistol songs. And then one guy said to me, "No, Luis, why